Hello, Steve White, Trekboy89 for Steve White's 89. Just a short video about a situation that I had with one of the Star Trek, some of the Star Trek The Motion Picture fan groups on Facebook. I already did one video about this because I needed to kind of vent, but it ended up being like 12 minutes long. I thought I can do that shorter. Okay, basically, I'm a huge fan of Star Trek The Motion Picture, and I've been one of the people in the groups sort of lobbying to get a proper high definition version of the director's edition, and we're finally getting it. They're doing a 4K remaster, and the news kept getting better. They were using elements that were lost. They were sort of processing some of the effect shots to make them better without matte lines and things like that. And they were also creating some new effects and using some elements that hadn't been used, that were meant to be used, and it looked like we were going to get a little bit more than just a remastering of the original work. And that was great until they started showing us some images, and we could see that they were using the color grading to change the color palette. And the reason they were doing this was to promote the abilities of a technology that's basically reading the color, like a HDR. And they were putting that and promoting that over maintaining the integrity of the film, the art of the film, the color of the film. It's really an important thing. The film used a lot of blue tones for space and cool tones, and then inside was a lot of beige and soft tones, and they complemented each other really well. But now they're basically bumping up the yellow and the green in the shots to try and get more of a color range, so it could be read by this technology and could be, when you watch it on a TV or something, or a monitor or something that has that technology, it really apparently really shows off all these variations and all these layers to the color and everything, which is really just about promoting the technology, not about, like I said, maintaining the integrity of the art. And for me, this is the same as if someone went and repainted the Mona Lisa with more colors, so modern cameras could photograph it in a greater color range. Like if someone did that, it would be an absolute travesty and people would be losing their minds. But no one seems to care that they're doing this to Star Trek The Motion Picture, which is a work of art. Film is art, and the effects especially are art, especially now in the light that Doug Trumbull has passed on. And I was really offended by this, and I did a couple of videos talking about it and saying they're basically promoting this color technology ahead of the integrity of the art and the color of the film. And then I actually found that I got kicked out of some Facebook groups that were all about Star Trek The Motion Picture. I've been members of these clubs for years, and they mean a lot to me because I love the Star Trek The Motion Picture. Is my favourite Star Trek film, and being able to see other fans' contributions and comments and photos and things that they found on the motion picture and that and behind the scenes stuff was one of the things I look forward to most on Facebook, is finding new posts from these groups and being removed from them because I basically had an opinion. Because what happened was some of the members of the team working on the Director's Edition 4K remastering were in the group, and they asked me to be removed because basically I was speaking out against their work. I wasn't promoting Paramount and their product. But these groups weren't made for Paramount promoting Paramount's products. They were made for fans to talk about Star Trek. And the fact that I've basically been censored and kicked out of these groups, and I wasn't being abusive or bullying or anything or rude. I was just talking like I'm talking now and expressing an opinion. But because it went against what they're promoting, and they want obviously to keep in good with these guys, so they've got some inside information about the making of the special remastering, and they obviously want access to this guy for interviews and that to talk about later. So yeah, basically he flexed and they got rid of me. And what's worse was I had one of these people come into my DMs, one of the admin, one of the moderators, and was threatening me and being intimidating and bullying. And I said to him, look, because I'd already been kicked out of a couple of groups, and because it was like the three of them at least, and I basically thought he was from one of those groups, and I sort of had a go at him for kicking me out of the group. I said it wasn't fair, And he said, I haven't kicked you out of the group. He was talking from the last group I hadn't been kicked out of yet. And then he kept bullying me, and I stopped answering because he was just bullying me. This was over the course of like a week. And he said, well, you're not answering me, which is basically the equivalent of blocking an admin. So we're gonna kick you out of the group and block you for that. I can use that to justify, blocking and kicking you out. So then I talked to him and said, look, I don't know what you're doing. I'm dealing with a lot of issues now in my life. I don't have the time for this. I don't have the energy for this. And I don't understand why you're doing this to me. And he just kept on having a go at me and then blocked me from the group. So I've been blocked from all the Star Trek The Motion Picture Facebook groups because I did a couple of videos saying I'm not happy with how they're treating the film and the remastering. And I think they're caring more about promoting a product that I'm guessing Paramount has a stake in. Like a lot of these studios, they invest in a lot of these software and technology sort of advances that, they sort of promote or, use to distribute the product or whatever. So I haven't researched that, whether Paramount has a stake in HDR or whatever it's called. But it was very disappointing. And I had a similar experience years ago with one of the fan clubs where about the time of the fan guidelines, a lot of fans weren't happy and they were voicing opinions about that, and some people weren't happy about the new Star Trek films. They were trying to voice their opinion about that, but because the members of the group were trying to sort of form a relationship with Paramount because they wanted access to the actors for interviews and stuff when they had the films out to promote them, which they did get. They were basically censoring fans and they were basically standing at the back of the meetings, and when anyone said anything that went against a Paramount product, they would literally stop people from talking and say, you can't talk about that, and basically censoring people in person. And I left and complained about it online, and they eventually cut me out of the Facebook group for that as well. But before that, I got contacted by quite a few people who told me they had the same experience when they went to the club, where they weren't able to talk freely. They kept getting shut down, and they felt like they were being censored, and there was like a Paramount representative in the room, basically. And these groups are made for fans. They're not made to promote Paramount or CBS or the Star Trek products. They're there for the fans to talk about Star Trek. The assumption is it's positive because they love Star Trek and the product is good. But when something goes wrong and fans aren't happy, they should be able to voice it as long as they're not being bullying or abusive or anything like that, which I wasn't. So I basically left and then was sort of kicked out after that. And other people left as well. They just stopped going because they couldn't talk about Star Trek. They would get shut down. And who wants to go and sit and be lectured to by someone about, well, Paramount says this and Paramount says that, and this is the official word, and that's all you can talk about, and you can't talk outside of those lines. So it was very distressing. It was very, I felt kind of violated, like being kicked out of the groups, because they mean a lot to me, because the film Star Trek The Motion Picture is one of my favourite films. And like I said, one of my highlights of any day was seeing a post about something about Star Trek The Motion Picture with someone putting up pictures of the model work or something that they've got access to, and just having access to people having a lot of knowledge about the film. So I'm really upset about that, and it's really not fair because I didn't do anything wrong. And one of the reasons I've been offered to be a moderator in a lot of groups over time, and I've said no, because I don't want to be in the position where I have to get into arguments and be deciding who's right or who's wrong or who should or shouldn't be in a group or whatever. Because it does feel like a bit too much power. If you don't like someone, you can just be like, oh, I'm not going to let their post up. And that's what a lot of people do when they're in those sort of positions and they're in the admin and they're moderators. It's very much a personal thing and very much them feeling like they have a little bit of power and they can flex it whenever they want. And that's what this guy was doing. He was just flexing on me. And I knew from the start of the conversation that he was going to block me. So it didn't matter what I said. And that's what he did. And it's bullying and it's an abuse of power, and it's really just distasteful, especially for a group like Star Trek, which really should value free speech and people having an opinion and voicing their opinion, rather than censoring people and telling people that you can only talk about this product in this way and you have to like this and you can't talk about anything or have any sort of divergent opinion, because the fan base is fairly divided now. And when Discovery first came out, a lot of people had issues with it. A lot of fan groups were kicking people out and censoring fans for criticising the show, and they were really just like pro-Paramount and like, no, you can't not like the show. If you don't like the show, you're not welcome here. If you don't like Discovery, you don't like Star Trek, you're not a Star Trek fan, you have to get out. And there was a lot of bullying. A lot of people sort of had to leave groups and make their own groups, which unfortunately ended up having a lot of right-wing people in them who were really saying really ugly things, and a lot of people sort of had to go to that side because they didn't have anywhere else to go, and that left me with nowhere to go because I couldn't sort of deal with those people, and I got kicked out of some of those groups because I would argue with them and say, you can't say that, that's racist, that's sexist, that's misogynist, that's fat shaming. The last group I got kicked out of was because I did a video that said fans shouldn't be fat shaming Mary Wiseman, and I got kicked out because, you know, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't jump on that bandwagon and that. So it's just really sad, and I feel really violated and upset that I've been kicked out of these groups that mean a lot to me, just because people want to flex and feel like, you know, they're the king of their little castle and they rule their little mountain. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Maybe even ding the bell. Check you're still subscribed.